we know who's in charge of our money. It's the banks, right? But what if I told you there's a secret authority, a real invisible power that's actually running the whole show? Well, today we're going to pull back the curtain and find out who they are. I mean, just think about that for a second. We interact with our banks all the time, but this quote suggests the real control isn't with them at all. It's with some hidden authority operating completely behind the scenes. So, yeah, every single time you deposit a check or swipe your card or get a loan, you're plugging into this massive, invisible system. And it just begs the question, who is really pulling the strings here?
All right, let's get right into it. This invisible authority, this bank that's standing behind all the other banks, that is the central bank.
The easiest way to think about a central bank is as the bank for all the other banks. It doesn't have accounts for you and me. Its whole job is to manage the entire financial system. For example, in Ethiopia, this crucial role is played by the National Bank of Ethiopia, and you'll find a version of it in pretty much every country on Earth.
And here's where you see the big difference. Your normal bank, they're focused on you, right? Opening your account, giving you a loan. But the central bank? Oh, they have a much, much bigger mission, keeping the entire system from falling apart. They make sure there's enough cash flowing and that everyone is playing by the rules.
So you might be wondering, where does all this immense power come from? Well, it all boils down to one single fundamental concept: control over the money supply. By literally controlling the amount of money floating around in the economy, the central bank's decisions create these huge ripple effects that touch almost everything. We're talking about whether businesses can grow, how much your groceries cost, how easy it is to get a loan, even how many jobs are available. It is a massive, massive responsibility. So how do they actually do all this? It's not like they just call up other banks and boss them around. Instead, they have this arsenal of 4 incredibly powerful tools that they use to steer the entire economy. Let's break these 4 tools down. We'll start with the one you've probably heard about: interest rates. And then we'll dive into some of the more behind-the-scenes stuff, like reserve requirements, open market operations, and, of course, regulation. First up, the big one: interest rates. The central bank sets this one single super important benchmark rate. Now, this isn't the exact rate you get on your car loan, but think of it as the foundation. When that benchmark rate moves, all the other rates, for mortgages, credit cards, you name it, they all tend to follow right along with it. And the logic here is actually pretty simple. If they want to cool down an economy that's getting too hot, they raise rates. That makes borrowing more expensive and slows everybody down. But if they want to kickstart some growth, they do the exact opposite. They lower rates to get everyone borrowing and spending again. Okay, next tool in the box: reserve requirements. Now, this is a straight-up rule. It tells commercial banks what percentage of all their customer deposits they have to keep locked away at the central bank. They can't touch it. So let's just make up a number to see how this works. Let's say the reserve requirement is set at 10%. What does that actually mean for a bank? Well, if a bank has, say, $1 million in deposits from people like us, it has to park 100,000 of that with the central bank. That means it only has 900,000 left to actually lend out. So you can see, by raising or lowering that percentage, the central bank has this direct lever on how much money banks can create through loans. Our third tool: open market operations. I know, it sounds a little complicated, but the core idea is actually really simple. This is how the central bank fine-tunes the money supply on a day-to-day basis, and they do it by either buying or selling government stuff, like bonds, out on the open market. Here's how you can think about it. When the central bank buys securities, it's basically injecting fresh cash into the economy. But when it sells them, it's doing the opposite. It's sucking money out. It's kind of like the economy's gas pedal and brake. And finally, we have their role as the ultimate enforcer. The central bank has the power to give banks their license to operate in the first place. They watch them to make sure they're not taking crazy risks, and they enforce all the rules. And if a bank gets into serious trouble, the central bank can step in, restructure it, or even shut it down to protect the whole system. Okay, so we've gone through all these technical tools, but why should you actually care about any of this? Well, it's because these super high-level decisions have a very, very real impact on your wallet and your daily life. Seriously, think about it. The interest rate on your mortgage, that's a direct result of their decisions. The number of jobs available in your town, that depends on whether they're trying to speed up or slow down the economy. Even the price of your food is tied to their fight against inflation. And maybe most importantly, their job is to prevent those huge financial meltdowns that can wipe out everybody's savings. And this role, it becomes even more critical when we zoom out and look at developing nations.
In a developing economy like Ethiopia, the stakes are just unbelievably high. These central banks aren't just maintaining a system. In many cases, they're building it from scratch. They have to manage crazy fast growth, fight off super high inflation, and try to get credit to people and small businesses that have never had it before, all while keeping the whole thing stable. It is an incredibly delicate balancing act.
Which, brings us to the final and maybe the most important question of all. With this much power to shape entire economies and change people's lives, who is actually controlling the central bank? And really, that's the thing to remember. The banks we see every day, they're just on the front lines. Behind them is this enormous invisible system, the central bank, quietly shaping our entire financial world. And asking who controls them, well, that's one of the most important questions in all of economics.